I will try to keep the backstory basic. My brother was married to a woman called Kathy. They were both people with an addiction who entered recovery when they had a son, Freddie. When Freddie was 5, my brother passed away. Kathy relapsed. My husband and I got custody of Freddie when he was 6 and later adopted him. He's now a tween. We've tried to keep a relationship between Freddie and his maternal grandparents, Pam and Joe. Freddie goes to see them once a month to spend the day and sometimes overnight with them. Pam and Joe have brought up that Kathy has been clean for over a year and they'd like to reintroduce her to Freddie's life. We've said no to this because Freddie was in therapy and his therapist has shared that he has some extremely negative feelings towards Kathy. We've never shared this with Pam and Joe because it's not their business. We've just said no, the time isn't right. Last weekend we dropped Freddie off, intending he would spend the day there, and we took our daughter to the nearby riding school. After about an hour, we get a call from Freddie saying we need to pick him up because Kathy's there. We rush to the house to find him, Joe and Pam outside arguing. It devolves into chaos, with Joe and Pam trying to convince Freddie to come inside while criticizing me. Then Kathy came outside, and the arguing got worse. Eventually, Freddie started shouting at Kathy, and she started sobbing, and we took that opportunity to leave. Joe and Pam called and texted, but I ignored them for a couple of days while we calmed down. When we called, we told them we would no longer allow Freddie to visit them. They betrayed our trust and his, and the things they said about us and to us were heinous. We said we were done with them for the foreseeable future. They pleaded with us, but we held firm. We've blocked them from Freddie's phone, but we're keeping the line open with us because we want to collect evidence of their harassment just in case. Kathy has reached out begging for contact with Freddie, and we've also ignored that. Family advice is split. Some say we've done the right thing, and some say we should allow supervised contact. Freddie has said he would see them again, but not Kathy, but we don't feel we can guarantee that. We've never gotten along well with Pam and Joe, and I don't know if that's clouding our judgment. I know that this is the only link he has to Kathy's side of the family, but on the other hand, Freddie was in tears for hours and had nightmares after seeing Kathy. Am I the idiot for banning visits with my son's bio-grandparents after they ambushed him with his birth mother? Not the idiot. Pam, Joe and Kathy are huge idiots. Kathy clearly traumatized Freddie. She's going to have to live with that. As much as the mother wants to see her child again, that child's well-being trumps any of her needs. Her choices made her a danger to him. She's going to have to live with the consequences. Pam and Joe have clearly demonstrated that they place their adult, toxic daughter above their grandson. They will also have to deal with the consequences of their choices. As the child of a parent like Kathy, yes, 1 year clean is way too soon, especially just ambushing poor Freddie like that with someone who traumatized him. There was absolutely no regard for Freddie. The situation was all about Kathy and what she wanted and what the grandparents wanted as well. It's just disgusting, selfish behavior that's only given Freddie more problems to work through in therapy. We had a similar situation in our family. A mom completely bailed on her kids, then years later wanted to resume visitation. She was required to attend reunification counselling so there could be a determination as to whether seeing her would be in the kids' best interests. If you ever decide Kathy should be given another chance, I recommend you to go this route. Such requirements may even discourage her and make her go away. This is what happened in our case. Too many hoops to jump through. Meanwhile, the kids were protected emotionally and there was no residual damage. The grandparents should also go through something like that. I would call his school and any other place he goes right now and make sure they know Pam, Joe and Kathy are not to have contact. People like that are plotters. You cannot leave your kid alone with people you can't trust to follow your rules as parents. If you let his mom back into his life and she relapses and leaves again, it will screw him up forever. For now, ignore all outside input from the family and just protect your kid. That's your job as parents. I married my now husband 3 years ago. He has a daughter who's 27 with a preschool-age kid and has now given birth to an infant girl. Her relationship with the father of her children is complicated and he's out of sight right now without getting into more details. She has no income and can't pay rent, so she doesn't have a proper place. Thus, for the last 4 months she's been living with us. Those were the most hectic months of my life, lack of sleep at night and chaos during the day. Lots of control over food because her older child is very picky and couldn't even watch TV properly because, again, the kids want to see cartoons. My stepdaughter didn't try to have the father involved, seek child support, or try to find any solution for herself during the time she's been with us, and I'm tired of all this. She isn't even giving me the potential that she might do something. She decided that this was where she'd live. So I told my husband that he has to get her a place and try to reach the father of her children because this situation isn't working at all. He refused because while he was already the one paying for all her stuff, he didn't want to pay extra rent. In our house, everything is 50-50, and it was like that even when she came, but he paid for extra necessities like children's clothes, diapers, etc. My stepdaughter doesn't want to get out either because she has her free cook and free babysitters in the house. My husband doesn't want to pay extra rent. I held my ground that she got till the end of this month to leave or else I'll file for divorce, which will cost my husband a lot. I did sympathize with her situation, but now it feels like she doesn't even want to try and help herself, and I'm so disappointed in my husband. You are the idiot. Honestly, you may not like his response if your first move is to threaten divorce after only 3 years when things get tough, and you're expecting your husband to choose you over his daughter and grandchildren. Do not threaten your husband. Do not make him choose between you and his kid. The kid wins every time. Exactly. You married for better or for worse. Now you've hit a hard time, only a few years into the marriage, and your reaction is to threaten divorce. You're asking your husband to choose between his wife and daughter. A very tough choice for any parent. I feel sorry for him having to make this decision. Some group therapy may help the three of you learn conflict resolution skills. It sounds like it's needed. Anyone calling OP the idiot can send this woman money for a new apartment. OP, not the idiot. It would be one thing if this was a short-term situation, but according to your post, she has 0 job prospects, no skills, and no way of ever earning money. She will live there forever with the kids. Not what you signed up for when you married. You're paying 50% of the household expenses, including her and the kids. Until things change, stop doing for everyone. Don't pay 50-50 because rent should be split at least between the adults, so only pay a third. 47. My children weren't happy about this, so I encouraged them to give her a chance. My children reluctantly agreed. My ex and Cassie got married. My ex dropped my children off a day early with Cassie this weekend and they all looked upset. I asked what happened and my daughter started crying and telling me Cassie was not her mom. My son looked angry and started backing his sister up and I looked at my ex, but Cassie said she thinks now that she and my ex are married, it's proper that they now call her mum. She was so matter-of-fact about it. If my children weren't upset, I would have laughed. It was ridiculous. I told Cassie that if they don't want to call her mum, they don't have to, and they can keep calling her Cassie or Cassandra, but they will not be calling her mum unless they want to. She didn't like that. She accused me of being jealous and stopping them from bonding. I told her if anything, you're driving them away. My ex asked me to talk to them and think about it. I told him I would not force them to do something they clearly didn't want to do. Cassie started insulting me, and I told them to leave or I'll be calling the police. They did leave. I got an email from my ex and Cassie saying they're going to take me to court to get full custody. I told them I was ready. I told my cousin about the situation, and she said, "Are you willing to put those kids through a traumatic experience being fought over in court?" She said when she went through it with her ex, her children were traumatized, and even as adults, they're still in therapy for it. Now I'm doubting and I don't know what to do. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Most courts allow children past a certain age to decide who they want to live with if the parent is found to be fit. I'm sure it's a bluff, and it's a bit absurd for your ex and his wife to think it's normal. It will be ironic if your ex does seek custody because you will not force them to call someone else mum. It's basic parenting, teaching your children to think independently. He's a moron if he thinks he's going to get full custody because OP won't force her children to call their stepmonster mom. Tell the ex to bring it on, but he better be ready for the potential outcome that his visitation is reduced by request of the kids. Plus, if he keeps forcing this, he runs the risk of losing his son in 2 years and his daughter in 4. Your cousin is wrong. It would be more traumatic for your kids to see you not fighting for them and letting them live with someone they obviously don't like, and tell your cousin to give that speech to your ex. I, 30 female, have a teen daughter, Leia. Married my husband Mark, 46 male, 6 years ago. He has 2 children from a previous marriage. Coy, a male teen, and Coral, a young female teen. Mark and I have the kids full-time, but his kids live with their mom for a few weeks during the summer. They moved into my lake house, which has 5 bedrooms. 2 of the bedrooms upstairs have bathrooms. My daughter had one of those rooms. But as the girls began high school, Coral began complaining about not having a bathroom and said it was unfair. Mark and Coy told her to stop complaining. Leia said it was fine and asked if she could turn the basement into her room. I didn't like that idea, but she begged, so I agreed. It turns out my daughter wanted a room makeover, so this worked out. We gave the kids an allowance and allowed them to get a work permit. Coy worked at an arcade and told the girls he could get them jobs. Coral refused to work, but Leia agreed. After 5 months of saving her allowance, she could buy everything she needed to decorate. Coral never bothered to go down there because she believed it was full of spiders, but Coy was helping her every day. After a week, she completely transformed the basement. She invited everyone down, and it was stunning. I didn't even know that computer towers could be clear. She looked so proud. Coral then screamed that it wasn't fair and that she wanted the basement now. Everyone began yelling at her, but she began crying. Before we knew it, she ran over to the computer and threw the tower on the ground. The glass shattered and one of the monitors fell to the floor, also breaking. My daughter cried. I explained to Mark that Coral has to pay for this. He said her emotions were just high and that we'd get situated when everything calmed down. I ran to Coral and yelled, saying that she was on punishment. Mark disagreed and I didn't care. Coral was unnecessarily crying and ran to her mother's car. Coy was trying to help my daughter, and Mark tried to hand her $300, but Coy explained that Coral had caused about $1,000 worth of damages. He said luckily the expensive pieces in the case were saved, but the case itself was about $450 and the monitor was $200. Mark explained that he didn't have that kind of money, so I said she couldn't come back until my daughter's stuff was repaired with a sincere apology. Coy agreed and Mark was upset, saying he couldn't do that to his daughter. I told him to leave if that's the case. Mark left for a few hours and handed my daughter a check for $1,000. I explained that Coral couldn't come back if there was no punishment. My husband's ex-wife is saying that I'm banning her from our home because she didn't deserve the bigger space and that we were treating Coral unfairly. But I said she did that, there was nothing unfair about the situation. The ex just hung up. Now my husband's ex-in-laws are bombarding him with phone calls saying he's a horrible dad. His sister even said he's being a bad parent, and they're best friends, so it's really getting to him. This happened last night and he hasn't gotten up yet. Should I apologize? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Coral sounds like a spoiled brat. And Mark needs to realize that as a young teen, she should have a better handle on her emotions than throw a tantrum because someone else has something nice that she wants. She should apologize for behaving like a toddler, and Mark needs to stop coddling his kid. At least the older brother seems to have a clue. Let him stew in his feelings. Maybe he'll get some insight into why his dismissive parenting isn't doing anyone any favors. That's exactly what I was thinking. How is a young teen experiencing the emotional highs of a 7-year-old brat? Wow, 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 I want the cool thing that this person has. I know, I'll just start destroying crap that I'm jealous of. Like what? There are clearly some extra issues going on here because his son seems pretty responsible. Maybe it's because she's a girl, she's been raised differently. Yes, I'm guessing Coral has always been Daddy's precious little baby girl who can do no wrong. Can you see this in a couple of years when Leia saves her money and buys a car? How much do you want to bet Coral has a fit, takes it without permission and wrecks it? Or keys it because she wanted it? Jesus, with no accountability, Coral will continue her behavior. Hubby could solve all this by disciplining his kid and getting her therapy. I'm glad he paid your daughter back. That's what the law would do. A young teen can't be made to pay anything, so it's the parent's responsibility. That's just not the end of it. He also needs to pay for a good lock for her room before his daughter is allowed back. Update, I found out the complete story and there is a lot of drama. It's over a boy. So both my daughters are cheerleaders and it's a school dance coming up. All of Coral's friends are cheerleaders and they all date football players except her. So her friends have been trying to hook her up with Brad for the past month. But it turns out he's interested in Leia. My daughter, 29, has one child named Sally. We have a large family with a lot of aunts and uncles. In the beginning, everyone was super happy to help out and be the village. The problem started when my daughter started having issues with everything they did when helping her out. At first, it was big things that should be respected, like respecting nap time, but over time it started to get smaller and smaller. It got to the point where she was nitpicky just to nitpick. Whenever someone would babysit or help her out, she would be texting them constantly or hovering over their shoulder. Some examples are Aunt Jen's basement not being safe, the kid doesn't go into her basement. washing the dirty baby clothes with the wrong softener, and food not being correct, always too hot or too cold. The list goes on and on. To make it worse, she has an attitude that she's the one doing us a favour by letting us near Sally and that we're not helping her out since none of us need to help out. I've talked to her about this before. I understand she's a first-time parent, but it's very frustrating. It's all her way and she won't accept anything else. It's got to the point where they didn't help her anymore. They were tired of her nitpicking everything they did and were done. She complained that no one was helping her and basically they all sucked. I told her she no longer has a village due to being overbearing. She called me a jerk and hasn't answered my texts. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sometimes you just have to tell people the truth without sugarcoating it. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't be rude to the people that are helping you. Also, don't worry. She'll call you when she can't get anyone else to watch her child. You called her out on her behaviour. She should own it. Exactly. She doesn't want a village. She wants staff. The solution to this problem is for your daughter to hire someone paid to follow her instructions exactly. When people favour babysitting, as long as the baby is safe and warm, clean and fed, your daughter has nothing to complain about. Sounds like your daughter has extreme anxiety manifesting as control issues. Have you talked to her about possible PPA or PPD, or general anxiety disorder? You are the idiot. As her mom, I'd be worried about the source of the behaviour instead of judging her. It sounds like maybe she's a single parent since the story doesn't mention a partner. Doing it all alone definitely increases the risk of PPA or PPD.